All right, we're live.
Yay! So we're just waiting for a little bit for Reese to join us and then we'll get going.
Yeah.
Super excited. All right. So do you have plans for the New Year's celebrations besides staying inside and not getting sick?
I don't have any. Yeah.
I'll be writing.
Yay, that's the best way to spend any kind of time.
True. Especially when you have a deadline.
Oh God, yeah. But all right, let's get started here. I'm Brittany Winters. I tweet nonsense about romance at Litnits on Twitter. And I also work for Love Sweet Arrow, who is the lovely and gracious host for this live chat today. And I'm here today with Nina Crespo, Reese Ryan, and Julie Hamilton to ring in the new year with some new releases. I'm so excited to be here with you all. And why don't you guys tell us a little bit about your books? Julie, let's have you go first since this is your debut.
Sure. Yeah, this is also my very first author event, which is exciting. So just for show, came out yesterday. It is about a photographer and a home renovation TV star. Their airplane meet cute goes viral and they decide to fake date to boost their careers.
Awesome. Reese, how about yours? The Bad Boy Experiment.
The Bad Boy Experiment is about two former high school crushes who are also current real estate rivals and reluctant neighbors who kind of rebuild their friendship and fall in love.
Yay. And Nina, let's hear more about yours.
All right. Well, A Chef's Kiss is about two former rivals in the business world. They're both chefs. And so 6 years later, they're reuniting. And so the question is, with this new attraction that they're feeling, is it a good thing or are they just cooking up another heartbreak?
I love that. And also very funny. Are they kicking up a new heartbreak?
Yeah.
So one of the things that I found very interesting about all three of your books, because I shotgunned them over the last 3 days and it's been a wild ride plowing through all of them and they're so good. So my first question would be more of a statement. It's like, how dare you be this awesome? But every last one of you have these protagonists, these heroines who had like these very strong senses of identity and these strong focuses on their careers. And they're not willing to let a man tell them like, well, pretty much anything. So could you tell me a little bit more about how you have crafted the jobs behind your heroines? Because I have a real thing for like heroines who do work.
For me, career is always a part of almost, I think every story I write. Family is huge and career is huge usually. So I love having the heroine be passionate about something outside of the romance. And so in this case, Ren is determined to revive her family farm. She's been this brilliant scientist who worked in pharmaceuticals, and now her focus has changed because of her son, who is autistic, and she's moved back home and she wants to get this farm started again. And that creates conflict between her and Cole, who wants that same property for a very different reason.
All right.
Well, I think as I crafted the character of Philippa, because she's actually was a side character in the Tilbridge Stable series. And so from page 1 of A Cowboy's Claim, she was no nonsense, very focused, very much into having pride as a chef in her work and her food. So it just definitely carried into A Chef's Kiss that she would do that. And personally, I just like writing heroines who have that strong sense of themselves and what they want out of life, because actually I think that makes them a better partner for whoever they end up with in the end with the books.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so my female main character, Audrey, is a photographer, and I've kind of dabbled a little bit in photography, so it was something that I knew about, but I also thought it would tie really well into the social media angle of the story with Audrey and Luke posting pictures of all their fake dates on Instagram and Twitter. So I thought that would be really fun. And like Nina said, I like heroines who have a strong sense of self, who know what they want, who are going to go after their dreams. And Audrey definitely does that in my book.
Yeah. So Julie, about to piggyback on that, like one of the things that really struck me about Audrey as a character is her like no nonsense point of view as to like what it is she wanted to do, and like her no holds barred, like I'm going after like my dreams of being a photographer. And I had this like very cathartic feeling when and this isn't a lot of a spoiler, but she quits her like nonsense day job because her boss is a big jerk. And like it was like a cinematic masterpiece where I was just like, yes, bring that down. And have you had is there anything in there that like really resonated with you while you were writing it, this like very cathartic, like I don't need this job? I mean, I kind of do because I have to, but
yeah, I'm glad that it was cathartic for you. That's kind of what I was going for. I hope that people could identify with Audrey and what she was going through. I'm sure all of us have had terrible day jobs at some point in the past, myself included. I worked for a newspaper for a very short period of time, like right out of college. So it was a while ago, and I had a very toxic boss. I feel like I can say this now because I'm never going to work in newspapers again. It was so long ago. And Gary, Audrey's terrible boss, is kind of a little bit based on that terrible newspaper boss, just, you know, the level of condescension and like being patronizing and stuff like that. But I also wanted to infuse Audrey with, you know, I wanted to write somebody who was not afraid to go after what she wants. She had a little bit of what I wish that I had, you know, when you're in a bad situation, you can just be like, hey, goodbye, you know, I'm not going to do this anymore.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think that's one of the great things about being able to write strong heroines, that you can write in this situation where you are able to have that kind of agency and self-possession that a lot of us wish that we could have in our day-to-day life. Is that struck true for either you, Nina, or Ryan or Reese?
I was gonna let Nina go first.
I'm gonna let Reese go first. We're being so polite. Oh, you want me to go first? Okay, actually, okay, catching up. Yeah, definitely. It is for me as an author a cathartic experience to be able to put myself in the shoes of the heroines that I'm writing about and just kind of live vicariously through them, or, you know, relive some situations through them in terms of how they approach life and their choices. So definitely.
Yeah. And I love writing characters who, you know, even though my characters are always usually, you know, around mid-30s and up, who they're still discovering things about themselves. And along the way, you start to say, okay, I'm not taking any of this BS anymore, you know? And so that's kind of what we see in some of the characters that I'm writing. Like they might have gone through some of these bad things, and then they're deciding, kind of coming into who they are now, who they want to be, as opposed to who other people want them to be. And I think that's always a big thing for my heroines, is they're kind of that self-discovery that they're going through. And so, yeah, they also, like Nina said, getting to relive some things. You know how there's always those conversations that you walk away from and you're like, damn, I should have said so-and-so. You know, and so in the books, you can kind of get to, you know, say those things to the jerky bosses that we've all had.
Yeah, absolutely. And on that token, like what are some of your favorite kinds of scenes to write? Like, what are the things that, like, when you have been slogging away at the keyboard for ages, like what is the thing you're like, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and write this kind of scene because it's going to make me feel better?
I love dialogue. I love writing dialogue, especially kind of snappy dialogue. Those are the things that usually don't let me sleep at night. Or if I'm writing a different book, there's dialogue happening from another book. And then I love writing usually the family scenes between characters, because I do a lot of families. And so there's always some kind of thing going on between some sibling or something like that. And I just love writing those fun scenes like that. So
For me, I like to write, the fun and game scenes in terms of when they kind of get a glimpse of what it would be like in terms of being together, or those moments where they find something in common. Like right now, the book that I'm writing, they both like zombie movies. And so being able to write about, having this dialogue between them about the zombie apocalypse. And, in A Chef's Kiss, it was a little different in terms of, and trying to say this in a way that doesn't give away too many spoilers, but they live two different lives. He's a celebrity chef, and so his experience is different from hers in terms of small town life. And so him getting a glimpse of what it's like from her perspective, or just a glimpse of her life, it was just fun writing that and seeing how he adapted to it and loved it, basically.
I love writing those fun and game scenes too. I always really look forward to those. I also like writing friend groups. So in Just for Show, Audrey has a group. It's her and two friends, and their scenes together were really fun to write. I also like the family scenes. Luke has a really close relationship with his younger sister, and I always enjoyed writing their scenes together.
Yeah. And like, now that I'm thinking on it, having read all three of your books, like, it shows. Just because there is a lot of like snappy dialogue, whether it be between the love interest or between the family or friends. And I think that, sometimes we all know that the central premise of a romance, the promise of the premise, is that there is a central couple who will get their happily ever after at the end of the story. But one of the things that makes that journey so delightful are the friends and family that they interact with on the way. Like, there are definitely, books that have kind of like a bottle episode where it's just these two like in forced proximity and they have to like deal with each other and only each other. But there's something magical about building out relationships further than just the couple. Could you guys speak to me about some of your favorite like family members or side characters in your books, and the ways in which that they may have taken you in a direction that you may not have expected?
That's a really good question. I think for Luke's relationship with his sister, Erin, she started out like really teasing him a lot because he goes viral, and she kind of gets a real kick out of that. But as the book progressed, like, he starts to lean on her a little bit more. And I really was not expecting that. But there's a scene toward the end of the book, and I'm not going to spoil anything, but it's Luke really kind of having a heart-to-heart with his sister. And that scene, I didn't plan. It just kind of came out of nowhere. And it ended up being one of my favorite scenes that I wrote in the entire book.
Well, for me, with Philippa, she was actually a side character in the Tilbert series. And so she just really stood out to me from book one. And I didn't really figure it out until book three that she deserved a book. And so with A Chef's Kiss, it was fun to be able to go back and revisit the Tilbridges to see where they are in their relationships now, particularly the couple from book one, Chloe and Tristan, in terms of how they've evolved and how they've developed. And, they're on track for happily ever after in terms of he's put a ring on it. So their life is definitely changing. So just being able to write about the Tilbridges and continue to write about those connections with friends and other family members is just a joy. I feel like I'm going back to, that small town Maryland and visiting with them when I'm writing the book.
Yeah. I love just really fully integrating these other secondary characters, usually family members and some friends or maybe town members or whatever, or, so I really will see the other members from particularly in this case, since this is a series and this is the final book in the series, you really see the other members of the family and they're an integral part of the story. And I love those relationships between them. So my characters always taking places I don't expect them to go, like all the time. So, whether it's a side character or a main character, but that's what always makes it's so much fun. So that's one of the things I learned about myself as a writer is like, I need some structure, but I need that room for those characters to take me in places I didn't expect and have room to do that too.
Yeah. It's so much fun to just see where these side characters take you, and especially for Nina and Reese's books, which are part of the series, like you get these glimpses of like, oh, I should probably reread the backlist on this one. I feel like I'm missing a lot of byplay here. There's some things going on that I need to be aware of. But it's just so fun to see characters who like are very comfortable with each other, and like there isn't kind of like this, you know, not like stiltedness, but like this kind of like woodenness to it, where it's just like, okay, well, we're getting all of these personalities in a room. What's going to happen? It's more of a, we all know who we all are. This is going to ride the way it's going to ride. And it's something that I find very fun with series, but it's something that I also found in Julie's book, which is really impressive. And I was very excited about it because like all of the friends and, well, the friends in Julie's book, and I can't tell too much about it, but there's a girl gang in there and their friendship is just top notch. Like, mess with my friend, they will never find your body level. And I was just like, yes, more of this. I want friends that you can call at 2 a.m. to bury a body. That's the kind of friendship we all need in our lives. Yes. And one of the things that I also found very interesting is that the settings played a really substantial role in all three of your books. So like there's Chicago and Julie's, which I was just like, I know where all of this stuff is, even if it's not supposed to be like directly mentioning a place. I know where this is. And Nina's, where it was like, you know, an island resort and then bringing it on back. And then we have just so many like wonderful place settings that really do act as characters of their own. Can you guys tell me a little bit about how you decided on where to place your stories and how they became such like integral parts of the novel?
For me, I wanted to do a fictional town because I didn't want anybody saying to me, that's not there on that street anymore, or you know, all of that. So I wanted to create a small town, and I wanted it to be set somewhere I had a connection to, which is Tennessee. When I was a kid, we used to make these long behind drives from Ohio to Tennessee every year for our family reunion, like an 18-hour drive in this clown car with my cousins. And and so I wanted to put, you know, make a fictional town there in Tennessee. So I do at this point try to make the town look kind of like a part of the story and the people who are there. And I love that familiarity that not only I have with the town, but also readers have with the town at this point. So.
Well, with my book, The Island, I needed a vacation. So I was writing an ideal place that I wanted to escape at that moment, if I'm honest. As far as, you know, the town in Maryland, I never expected to write small town romance. I have to be honest about it. And so when I was approached, you know, and my agent talked to me about it, one of the things that I had come across, because we were talking about African-American cowgirls and cowboys, was the cowgirls of color, and they are in Maryland. And at the time I was in Maryland. And so when I was mulling over, well, what is this series going to be about? I wanted that difference to be there, because people always think of cowboys, cowgirls, West, and it's like, no, they're everywhere. And so why not highlight that? And like Reese was saying, I wanted to write a town that didn't exist. So, you know, I wouldn't have anyone saying, no, that's not right. And also it's just been fun creating the town and like what's in the town and, you know, what business is here and what's going on there. And that has actually helped in the creation of more books and another series, in terms of being able to create this town and put the things that I want there.
So I couldn't imagine setting my book anywhere besides Chicago. I'm not originally from Chicago. I'm originally from Pittsburgh, which is actually where I met Radel, my parents' house. But I just love big city settings. And I've lived in Chicago for about 10 years now. And I just knew that's where I wanted to set the book. There's a home renovation aspect to my book as well. And there's a lot of great old houses in Chicago. So I did some research into different neighborhoods. I actually went on Zillow and found a house because I'm a very visual person. So like I needed to actually have the house in mind that I picked out. But I really wanted to be faithful to what Chicago is like for people who aren't tourists. There really aren't any scenes in my book that take place downtown. You know, there's some scenes like on the north side, on the west side, but I just wanted to show people parts of Chicago that they might not think about when they hear the word Chicago.
I, for one, very much appreciated that no one was hanging out in the Loop after 9
Oh yeah.
because it's never open. All the tourist spots shut down at like sundown, and then it's a ghost town. So this, yeah, I like that a lot. It made me feel very at home.
That's good.
Yeah, I think one of the questions I also had was about, you know, crafting and like how you plot out what's happening where, because I know Nina and Reese, you both have multiple series, and how is there a murder wall? Because it feels like there's like a murder wall situation.
No, but now I want to make one.
Just like a lot of string and push pins, because I am also a very visual person like Julie. So I'm just like, I would have to like have push pins everywhere. But like, this person knows this one by this way. They're married to this one, and this brother-in-law. Like, they met at this bar here, which is where this so-and-so works. Like, that's the only way my brain could operate.
I have a half-assed like series Bible that I have to kind of help me remember stuff like that. But I am also very visual, but I use Pinterest. So for instance, if I'm writing a scene where characters are like in a hotel room, usually, even if I don't say the hotel in Vegas or wherever, for instance, with the last book with Zora in Dallas, I know what that room looks like in my head because I've found a place like that. So same thing with these farmhouses that they are living in this book. I had to like in my head look at old farmhouses and stuff. So I have an entire Pinterest board filled with those different things, whether it's what a character looks like or what they're wearing in a particular scene. I usually have something on a Pinterest board for that because I'm also very visual.
I'm visual as well, and I'm kind of in the same on the same road that Reese is in terms of, you know, having this little half-ass plan in terms of you know, how it's all collected. But for me, it's you know, just a file on my computer that has pictures of the homes and, you know, with the stable, I had to go out and research, you know, okay, well, what do the buildings look like and what are they made of and what, you know, what would be on the ground. And then I actually have a map of, you know, Tilbridge, and I have a map of the town of Bolin so that I understand what is where. And I do try to, you know, have notes here and there, but luckily through the editing process, they usually catch me up if something is not where it's supposed to be. So I'm lucky to have that second eye, if you will, on what's going on.
And Julie, I have so many questions about some of the secondary folks in your book. Are any of the girl gang getting a book?
I hope so. So my book deal was a 1-book deal, so we'll see. I did submit a proposal, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, for the second book in the series, which does star one of Audrey's friends and Luke's cousin Aiden. So it's kind of like a grumpy sunshine kind of thing where she's the grump. Because I feel like it kind of goes the other way, like in male-female romance, like usually the guy will be the grump, the girl's the sunshine. So I kind of wanted to put my own spin on that.
I like that. I've been seeing more books like that, and I like that to have to refer. So
it's my favorite because I love not having to be the sunshiny one. Let me be grumpy.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And speaking of grumpy sunshine tropes, okay, so I have to ask, what are your favorite tropes to read and what are your favorite tropes to write? Because I have a feeling that they may not necessarily be the same.
My favorite's fake dating, to both read and write. And this is a fake dating book. I also like forced proximity. Marriage at Convenience, I feel, kind of falls under the fake dating umbrella, kind of. Only one bed, you know, I tossed that into this book too. It was kind of like, how many tropes can I cram in? I like marriage and trouble stories. I don't think I would ever write that, but I love reading that trope.
Yeah, that's super interesting. Like marriage and trouble is like, they already had their happily ever after either off page or in a previous book, but now you have to like delineate what the struggle is to maintain that happily ever after. Like what is the ever after portion? And I don't know if I could ever write one because it would probably
Yeah.
be like basically a transcript of like somebody's couples therapy session or something. But it's so much fun to read because you're just like, okay. So this is what happens after the happily ever after when he can't put his dirty underwear in the hampers. It's always like, okay. And he never wants to take out the trash. Okay. This is how you keep from strangling him. Good idea.
For me, for tropes, I mean, I love my tropes. I can't even pick like a favorite. It's like a top 5, second chance, friends to lovers, enemies to lovers, fake dating, love all of those so much. So I love reading those and writing them. But when it comes to writing, I definitely prefer to have a trope like a friends to lovers or enemies to lovers where there's some kind of relationship established already. Mm-hmm. I do less stories, I've noticed, where the characters are just meeting each other for the first time. I'm actually writing one right now. This starts my new series, but for the most part, it's like, second chance, or we were friends in high school. I like to write, as far as writing, I love to write friends to enemies to lovers. So there's some kind of friendship that they had in the past that went wrong, and then they're they have to build kind of a friendship again, and then they fall in love. So I like to go through the whole gamut of emotions, but there's always so many fun emotions to mine in a situation like that, as opposed to a brand new relationship. So that's why I like that.
Nice.
I like to write one night stand. That is my jam. If you have read any of my backlist, you will see that crop up quite a bit, because I just love the idea of two people meeting for the first time, having this strong attraction, giving into it, and then having to work out all of the things that they have to as they start to get to know each other. And then by the end, to have this relationship where they're so cemented together and so right for each other. So that's my preference. And then I also like to write on the other end of the spectrum in terms of second chance romance and reunited lovers. That is my second. And as far as reading, I mean, I will read anything. If I look at that back cover copy and it catches my attention, I will read it.
Same. I'm a sucker for enemies to lovers, just because I love watching people like figure out where that line is between love and hate, even though it really isn't love and hate. The opposite of like love is indifference. So for them to not realize that, and they're like, I hate this person so much, but I also want to kiss them, like, yeah. And throwing an only one bet, so you really got to figure it out. So yeah, that is awesome. And I guess like another question I would have for you all, because Nina, you inspired me with if the back cover reads good, then like I'm into it. What was the last book that you read that like you're like, oh yeah, I'm into this?
I mean, for me, unfortunately, am I speaking over someone, or was I okay? Well, unfortunately, I have not been able to get a lot of reading done, but I have been doing a lot of the reading through the apps. And so I was scrolling probably through the internet when I should have been writing. I was procrastinating, and they got me with this, description of this book about wolf shifters. I mean, that's like my other little jam right there. I mean, you give me a shifter story and I'm in. And so, yeah, it just caught my attention as soon as they said shifters, alpha, this person have his mate and she doesn't realize it, and now they have to get together. I was just like, I must read. And then the second was, for some reason, I'm on a zombie kick. So zombie apocalypse, that got me. And the strong female character, she like really rocks in this story in terms of she's the head of this colony, and she's like really keeping them in line and keeping them alive. So yeah, I'm there for that.
Nice.
I don't know necessarily that it was back cover copy that drew me in, but it's two things that and here's the thing is, I wasn't reading that much either because I'm on so many deadlines. And then I finally got to the point where like, okay, I have to no matter what deadlines I have, now I give myself time to read because it just helps inspire me and keep me going, whatever. So I've been reading a lot lately now. And so one of the books I absolutely loved was by Laquette, a very intimate takeover. I love that book so much because it gives you all of the stuff the desires about the wealth and the drama and stuff but it also gives you all of that Black culture. And I love it so much. She nailed the assignment. She understood the assignment. She nailed the assignment. Y'all need to read that book. A very intimate takeover by Laquette. And then I've also been on a romantic suspense kick lately. So I just completed Katie Richards' West Investigation series. I just read the last two books. I had read the first one a long time ago, but such a good series. Love it. Highly recommend both.
For me, it's The Mistletoe Motive by Chloe Elise. I'm actually reading it right now. So I do this thing in December where I only read holiday romances. I'll just like binge on holiday romances. What drew me to this one is it's set in a bookstore. It's rivals to lovers, which I neglected to mention when you asked me about tropes. I love that trope too. And these two people are battling to save this bookstore. They don't like each other. At the end of the month, only one of them will get to keep their job because of budget cuts, and the bookstore might not survive until the end of the year. I'm really enjoying it so far. Her writing is great. It's really fresh and funny. She has a lot of great representation. There's autism representation, demisexual representation. There's a character who has diabetes, which I've never read in a romance before. I'm sure they're out there, but I just haven't read it before. So I highly recommend it.
Yeah, sounds good. I've read some of Chloe's other books, and I've been hesitating on Mistletoe Motive because I categorically refuse to download Kobo because I'm A, cheap, and B, lazy. And C, how many more apps do I need to read?
I know. I downloaded the Kobo app basically just to read this book. Yeah.
Yeah. So I do want to note for anyone who's watching this live that you are able to submit questions to the authors if there's anything that you do want to know, and I can pass those messages along, but we'll just keep on trucking. I guess one of the questions I have for you, Reese, is what's next? I know that you're working on the next in your series, and what can you tell us?
So it is, I'm like always thinking about how to talk about it without giving too much away, because it's kind of part of what happens at the end of the book. But there will be another series, because I wasn't ready to let the Abbots go. So I get the book 6 and I'm not ready to let them go. And so I figured out a way, well, actually, when it was time to pitch a new series to them, since this one, the plan in was coming, I'm like, I want to stay in Magnolia Lake, which is where the Abbots live. So I'm like, okay, I need to find a way to stay in Magnolia Lake. So the series that I'm writing now, called The Valentine Vineyards, is basically a spinoff of the Bourbon Brothers series. So I'm not going to go into a whole lot more detail than that, but you're going to have another family, and this one has 6 siblings, and they will be running a winery in Magnolia Lake.
So you've got a winery and a distillery. There is a lot of food going on in this particular town.
Yes.
Awesome. And Nina, what's up next for you?
Well, the second book in the Small Town Secret series. So with Small Town Secrets, all of the books, there is this secret that the characters have that, gets in the way of their relationships. Let's put it that way. So book 2, the hero and heroine, their grandmothers have a past beef, if you will, that they don't find out about until later on. And so I can't say too much, but there is a curse breaking payoff involved. So
also, I just want to say what a genius you are to have a series called Small Town Secrets, because that could go on freaking forever. You could be on book 100, because everybody in the small town probably has some kind of secret.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's such a perfect general way to like loop everything together, or it should be a theme of the series.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
I'm having fun with it. I'm having a lot of fun.
That is awesome. I'm now I'm going to be like sitting here thinking like, how many secrets could there possibly be in small town? I'm going to be sitting here like a little riddle with like a little like mason jar full of secrets that I'm just going to make up and put in a jar. Like, okay. So Kelly has asked, what are you most looking forward to in 2022?
Ooh.
I'm looking forward to going outside again when it gets warm because Chicago sucks in the winter.
I'm looking forward to traveling again, for real, for real. I mean, I went to Philly a couple of weeks ago, and that was the first time I'd really been out of town, I think, in a while. But, you know, I was hoping, but, you know, the way things are going right now, who knows? Because in other countries, they're starting to do lockdowns again at this point because of the Omicron numbers. So, but that is the thing I am hoping and planning for is my first in-person reader event in a while. Is scheduled for July, the One Love reunion that AC Author puts on. So, and then that's in Denver. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
All right. What about you, Nina?
I don't know. I mean, there's just so many things that I miss doing. I miss date night. I miss dancing. I miss, you know, seeing my friends. And so I'm looking forward to more gatherings with friends and just kicking back and having fun.
I'm also hoping I can see my friends more. And I'm also hoping that Chicago North Romance Writers, I'm the co-president of it. I'm outgoing co-president, but we're supposed to have our Spring Fling conference in April. And I hope that we can have it in person. I'm really looking forward to it because there's a book signing, and that would be my first ever book signing. And I hope that it can happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just miss so much about the before times. Like, so much I've taken for granted, like going outside without a mask, or, you know, like being able to hang out in a restaurant and not worry about the guy two tables away from me hacking up a lung. Like, what are you doing here?
So true.
I guess, like, well, on that note, like, what is like the one thing that you didn't think that you would miss, but you actually really do miss? I can go first. It's karaoke. I hate doing it. I think that, like, unless I have been very well socially lubricated with alcohol, there's nothing you can do to get me up on that stage. But all of a sudden, now that I'm told that, you know, you probably shouldn't, I really want to. I really want to. And I don't know what that says about me. I think it's just that I don't like being told what to do.
That's hilarious. I guess for me, it's just going out, period. Because I am such a homebody. You know, at first the whole thought of, okay, you can't go outside. I'm like, okay. I didn't want to go out there anyway. So, but now that, like you said, I'm kind of a rebel too. So it's like, now that I can't go outside, okay, now I'm a little pissed that I can't go outside. So yeah, I think that's probably it, being able to just go and do something and not have to think about it. I know what else, the gym, because my whole life I could never like go to a gym and you know, stick with it. And I had finally got where I was going to the gym like 3 or 4 times a week. I was nailing it. And then COVID hit and everything shut down. And I have, you know, barely picked up a weight since then. So I guess that's one of the things I missed.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I miss too. I miss working out. And oddly, I miss just feeling comfortable grocery shopping. Because I will confess, I normally don't do the grocery shopping. My husband does. He's very good at it because I don't have the patience for the lists and, you know, to do that stuff. But I actually missed it. It's like, whoa, I want to go grocery shopping. I want to feel, you know, I want to hang out. But no, not as much. We just do it as a necessity, in and out, don't hang around.
I just miss going out and hanging out with friends and not having to worry, like you were saying, Brittany, about the guy hacking up his lung a table away. It's funny you mentioned karaoke, because right before the pandemic started, I started actually going out with a couple of friends to do karaoke. I wouldn't say on a regular basis, but maybe every couple months. It was something I actually really enjoyed. And it's like, I'm a total homebody too, but it's like right as I started to go out more, that's when the pandemic hit.
Yes. Just like I got my nose pierced like on February 28th because my birthday is March 1st. And then right after that, mass went into since. That's why I was like, okay, I'm gonna start a YouTube show, or people will never see my face again.
Kelly has said that she wants to have karaoke at Spring Fling now, and you can join them. So that sounds like a lot of fun. Yeah, man, it's been so weird. Like I've started a couple of new jobs since the pandemic started, and I can tell you that one of the weirdest things in the world is trying to do like your orientation via Zoom with somebody you've never met before, and you're also just like, so how do I get my laptop? And there's just like a person drops on your doorstop, rings your doorbell, and runs away, so you never actually see a human. Wow. Like the funniest thing.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's the last 2 years have been a journey. Kat asked, one of my favorite things about romance is the balance of realistic characters with optimistic plot lines. And how do you achieve this balance?
Good question.
Okay. I'm like mulling this over.
Yeah, it is a great question.
For instance, for me, Renee, my heroine, is the mother of an autistic 4-year-old son. He's severely autistic. And so like, whether it's that or, whatever's happening in the character's life, that's, some realism about like, the challenges that she faces. One of my favorite scenes in this book is when Cole comes and knocks on her door and she's like looking totally trashed, like a dumpster fire. And she's like peeking out the window, like not wanting to see how terrible she looks. It's just, that's, kind of the realistic part of that whole thing. But, also like to give these characters who are dealing with difficult things that people that I know in real life are also dealing with a happy ending. That's one of the beauties of romance, is that, to show everyone, no matter what your situation is, that, you can get your happy ending. So I guess that's how I balance it, is just thinking about, okay, I want these people to have like real issues that they're dealing with, but to deal with it in the best possible way. It's not that, at the end the son is cured, but it's just that, you have the best possible outcome that you could have. I guess that's the best way I could put it.
Mm-hmm. I think for me, part of it is in the research. With the Tilbridge series, and which feeds into this series as well, there is a little bit of a Hollywood background to it. And so as part of my research, I was able to talk to a wonderful person. Her name is Nadine Nagamatsu. And she's an actress. She's also had some experience doing stunt work. And she's also a producer and a director. And so I wanted to know the technical things, but I also kind of wanted to know the realistic things in terms of, well, how does this impact someone's life as they're in this career? How would this impact the day-to-day in this situation in terms of what was happening? And so being able to look at it through that lens in terms of building the characters. And for me, it's about taking it, and as Reese said, the best possible outcome. But I also like to layer that in there, with a little bit of humor, a little bit of lightness, because I think that's part of life as well. When we think of that optimistic outcome, if we can be able to find that point of lightness and laughter. And so being able to just layer it in, it sounds easy as I explain it. It hasn't always been easy sometimes to write, but it definitely keeps me interested as a writer when I'm able to have that kind of basic research and talking to a real human who's been there and done it when I have it.
This is a really good question. Both of your answers were fantastic, by the way. I think it's important to ground stories in realism, at least for me. I want my stories to feel realistic. I want my characters to have real problems. I mean, and just for show, Audrey is dealing with a really toxic job at the beginning of the book. Luke is dealing with, some professional stuff, some family stuff too. But we always hear people say romance is the literature of hope. So while I want my stories to be realistic, I also want them to be hopeful. I want them to be joyful. I want them to be funny too. To show people experiencing real things, but they overcome them to get their joy in the end.
You both mentioned humor, and I think that's so important to me too, is because I think that even when you are dealing with rough things in your life, there's also all these moments of happiness and humor in between too that make it feel more real and authentic. And just, you know, I love it. I love that.
And I think that also plays into the family and friends part, right?
Yeah.
Because when your family and friends are there for you, hopefully they are lifting you up and they're giving you that support, and you're finding those moments where, at the end of the day, you're going to get through it. And you just know that you will, because they're there supporting you and kind of rooting you on, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like that is like one of the wonderful things about romance in general. Like this idea that no matter what you're going through, that there's always hope at the end of it all. Like that there's a pervasive sense of optimism, even when you're like on an angst fest roller coaster through like whatever it is your characters are taking you through. Like at the end of it all, you know that they will be able to maybe not triumph over it, but be able to persevere through it. And that I think is something that is kind of the essence of hope, is that even though there are terrible things, we can do hard things.
Mm-hmm.
We can get through hard things, and we can do it with joy in our hearts and with, togetherness and community, and be able to get through these things. And that's something that I think overarches through the romance genre as a whole, and something specific to all three of your books. Like some of the best moments for me were the quieter moments, where it's just like they're enjoying each other's company, and there's jokey jokes and inside jokes, and just like this little moments of lightness and revelry where they're just genuinely enjoying each other's company. And I think that those are the things that make relationships super authentic. Like it could be like 100% drama rama passion fest, but like for something that makes a sustained relationship, that makes you really believe in that happily ever after, there have to be these moments where they don't take themselves or each other too seriously. And I think that that's where you kind of find the lightness and the joy, and it's always so special to look into.
Yeah.
Oh man,
I agree.
how like romance did like happy warm feelings. Like I lost my train of thought just thinking about lovely things.
Well, I'm just thinking what you said.
You were saying about the quiet light moments. That's what I was thinking. I love that too, because like some of my favorite moments in a romance are like the little things that a person does, like to show how much they care. It doesn't have to be this huge gesture. It could just be the smallest thing, that kind of builds a relationship and shows that, makes the relationship believable. It makes you believe that they're going to survive past the end of the book, that they're gonna, go off into the sunset and be happy. Those little things that they do for each other. And then those quiet moments they have together. So
yeah.
And I think in those quieter moments too is when the wall comes down even more, where they're really able to see that window into each other, and that's the moment where they start to figure out, if they haven't already, that, hey, this is the person that I kind of like this person. Maybe this is the person that I want to spend more time with, that I want to be with. So, those quieter moments are definitely special.
Yeah. Because now I'm just thinking about all of the quiet moments in your books, and I'm like, I could list off a whole bunch of these, but I'm not sure how spoilery it would be. So, I mean, the one that's really sticking with me right now is from Reese's book, Bad Boy Experiment. And we already mentioned a scene where Ren is looking a hot mess, has just had a rough day with her kid. And here comes her love interest, knocking on the door. She's like, oh no. Oh, Jesus, no, I can't see me like this. And the whole gesture is basically like, hey, I just wanted to feed you. And I'm just like, what? He's bringing her lunch, and he doesn't care that she's covered in God knows what, because toddlers are a yuck fest. This is amazing. Love him forever, girl. Don't let him go.
And I started to mention that scene too, because what happens even before he brings them the food is that, he's coming to let her know, okay, I'm moving in next door or whatever. And she's like, my son's asleep. And like, God, please, he's like, well, I don't want to wake your kid. And so he actually asked the movers to wait until her son is up. And she's like, you're going to pay the movers, you're paying movers and you're going to delay 2 hours. What? So like those little things like that somebody does, it's like, okay, wow. That she didn't ask him to do it, but he did it because he cares. And so those little things in our romance, I just love seeing those moments. Those are the things that definitely make me fall hard for a person in a story. So
yeah, that one stuck with me specifically because I was thinking about the cost of movers the entire time. I was just like, he's keeping them for another 2 hours. That's like $600. That is a lot of money for a gesture. Yeah, and it's so good. I guess one question I have for you all is okay, maybe not your favorite book overall, because that's like asking you to pick your favorite child or favorite pet, but maybe like the one of your favorite books that you've read this year. Like I know that for a lot of the time you've been on deadline and stuff, so that's been a little harder than usual. And also just attention spans and God knows what's going on in the world right now. Also very difficult. But one of your favorite books and why?
My favorite book that I read this year was A Lot Like Adios by Alexis Daria. So it's a second chance romance. Gabe is a gym owner and Michelle is his former crush, high school crush. They kind of hooked up right after high school graduation, and then he left town and has not been back in like 10 plus years. And he's starting a new gym in New York. He needs somebody to work on marketing, graphic design. Well, guess who is an expert in those areas? It's Michelle. And so she ends up, unbeknownst to him, I think, if I'm remembering correctly, gets hired to do the marketing plan and some graphic design work and branding work for his gym that he's opening. And it's kind of a forced proximity situation because they're spending a lot of time together. And I just really loved it. I love seeing these two characters come back together. The family relationships were great too. I love anything Alexis Daria writes, but I think this is my favorite book of hers that I've read so far.
Nice.
I'm going to go back with a very intimate takeover by LaQuette. I know I've read a lot of books, actually, I've read a lot more books at the end of this year, this last few months that I've read all year. And I probably read something else that I absolutely love, but that's the thing that's freshest in my mind is that book. I absolutely love that book. So that's a very intimate takeover by LaQuette, who's a fellow Harlequin Desire author.
Well, the books that are sticking out in my mind, Sarah Taino, she is a new special edition author, and she wrote A Delicious Dilemma. And so I just love the whole cultural aspect that was in the book and just how she brought that to life. It was very vibrant in being able to read it. My husband is from Puerto Rico, so I could really just dive into the references and how she developed that story. So that's the one that's sticking out to me right now.
Nice. Yeah, I would say that for my own, best of 2021 reads, like Rebecca Witherspoon's A Thorn in the Saddle has really stuck out to me as like a real prize winner in this one. Like it's a Beauty and the Beast retelling with a Black cowboy in California who has a major attitude problem and control issues, who meets this immovable force of a like former childhood friend / crush, and she just like hands him his butt on every available opportunity, takes none of his nonsense, gives him no quarter, just like whips him into shape. And you see like this big brawling man who's like 6'5", like, big and burly and can handle anything. And he's just like, I don't know what to do with her. I have feelings and I don't know what these are. And I love watching the control freaks crack. And it was just, it was so good. It was one of the best reads I've had all year because it was just like watching him like melt down over and over again. And she's just like, yeah, you take this and you're gonna like it. And he's just like, okay.
Love Rebecca Weatherspoon.
Right. Yeah, that was definitely one of the highlights of my reading for this year, because I was just like, this is what I needed. It was basically like a very loving takedown of what the patriarchy is, but in a very like kind and gentle way, like taking down like the idea of toxic masculinity, where like you as a man may feel like you have to be in control of everything and like make sure everyone is safe. Like sometimes, bro, worry about yourself. Like, self-care, my friend. Like, go lay down, take a nap, you'll be fine. Everybody's gonna be fine. So it was a great read, and I was very excited about it.
Those books are all on my TBR, at the top of my TBR list, so that's good to hear.
Yes, definitely go for it. Like, oh my gosh, so good. Let's see. All right, we are coming up close on time. So I think that one of the questions I have, just book related, is a flip on Kelly's earlier question of what are you most looking forward to in 2022? It's, are there any new releases or things that are coming up that are bookish that you're really looking forward to in the next year?
Can I just say some new releases I'm looking forward to?
Yeah.
I'm really, really looking forward to Mia Sosa's next book, The Wedding Crasher. I absolutely loved The Worst Best Man. I feel like I've been waiting a long time for this second book, and I'm just so excited to read it.
You're gonna love it.
I'm so jealous that you've gotten to read it already.
Well, it helps that I talked to her last month, so like that works. It lives up to The Worst Best Man. You're gonna really enjoy that one. There's shenanigans galore, and it's so good.
I love it. There are so many books that I'm looking for. Like I've been looking at, and I'm like, oh, I can't wait till this book, and I cannot think of a single one of them right now. That's the way my brain works.
Yeah, I know. It's an unfair question to ask, because it'll be like, yeah, I'm an encyclopedic like fount of knowledge of romance books. Ask like a simple question. It's like, I have never seen a romance novel.
Never say none at all. None at all.
None at all.
I guess I have to say, looking forward to, since I was talking about The West Investigations by Katie Richards, the next book in the series comes out in July, I think. So I'm looking forward to reading that one.
It'll be fun.
Mm-hmm. I think the one that I am definitely looking forward to, and I had to look it up quickly because I didn't want to, I will probably still mispronounce her name, but it's going to be close. Darby Baham. She is a new special edition author, and her book, The Shoe Diaries. I saw the cover as I was scrolling through, the internet again, and I just had to do a reverse because it has this woman on the front and she's surrounded by shoes. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, I'm in. And so, definitely going to get a chance to read that book and actually talk to her next year about the book. So I'm excited about all of that.
Now I'm entranced by this. I'm gonna have to go look this up because this cover sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's cool.
I know that they say like, don't judge a book by the cover, but have you seen some of the covers coming out lately? Like, oh my God.
Yes.
So good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So it looks like we're coming up on time. I just wanted to let everybody in the audience know that these books are available for sale at Love Sweet Arrow, and that there are quite a few of them that may be signed or have book plates. So I think you guys should snap them up as soon as humanly possible. I am minorly biased given my current position on this panel here, but they're all so good. Just a balm to the soul. Like I was laying on my couch, like recovering from COVID, and I was like, this is the best possible use of my time. The stretch between Christmas and New Year's, like reading these books back to back was just like the highlight of my year thus far. It was just so fun to just like dive into these worlds and fall in love with these characters, falling in love with each other. And like, it's just so good. And like every last one of them had something that was like absolute catnip for me. So like, so Julie's had like, well, Chicago, so I'm always gonna nerd out and like, I know where this is. But also like I'm a sucker for HGTV adjacent anything. And then you throw in like animal shelter photography, and I'm like, sold. Just take my money, it's fine. And then like Chef's Kiss, like first of all, the only note I had for that book was, where are the recipes? I was very hungry after I finished reading it, and I was just like, there's
a few on my website. There's a few there.
Okay, well, read A Chef's Kiss and then go to the website for the food, because the descriptions are amazing. And then you have Reese Ryan's The Bad Boy Experiment, which had me like alternating between like blushing and squealing in delight for like an hour, and I was just like, oh, it's like over and over again. Like, you guys, just everyone should have these books on their shelves, basically. Like, it's been so great to read them, and it's been so great to talk with all of you today. I'm so excited for all three of you, and I'm so excited to read everything that comes out from all three of you in the future.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you to Love Sweet Arrow. And also, if you get the Bad Boys Experiment from Love Sweet Arrow, you also will get Bourbon Brothers goodies, including access to the digital commemorative booklet that has recipes from the entire series. So, just saying.
All right. Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure talking with you all, and congratulations on your new books.
Thank
you.
Thank